Good afternoon, classmates. Good afternoon, especially to you, ma'am. Our topic for today is all about the taxation. So, what is taxation? Taxation means laying a tax through which the government generate income to defray its expenses. So, it means ito yung paglalagay ng buwis kung saan ay kumikita ang pamahalaan o gobyerno upang mabayaran ang mga gastusin nito. It is a term for when taxing authority, usually a government, levies or imposes a financial obligation on its citizens or residents. So, ibig sabihin daw, kapag ang isang otoridad sa pagbubuwis, usually a government, ay naniningil o pumapataw ng obligasyong pinansyal sa mga mamayanan ng bansa o mga residente ng bansa. Next. It is a way to raise funds or government programs and services that benefits the Filipino citizens. So, ito rin daw ay isang paraan upang makalikom o makaipon ng pondo para sa mga programa at serbisyo ng pamahalaan na mapapakinabangan ng mga Pilipino. Tax, a compulsory contribution to state revenue levied by the government on workers' income and business profits or added to the cost of some goods and services and transactions. So, ito daw ay sa pilitang kontribusyon sa kita ng Estado na pinataw ng gobyerno sa kita o income ng mamamayan. Kita ng negosyo o mga idinagdag sa halaga ng kalakal, serbisyo at transaksyon. So, the imposition of tax is done by law through the BIR or Bureau of Internal Revenue. So, ang pagpapataw ng buwis ay ginagawa ng batas sa pamamagitan ng BIR or Bureau of Internal Revenue. Types of taxes. So, what are the two types of taxes? Number 1, the national taxes, and number 2, the local taxes. National taxes are the ones paid to the government through the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So, ito yung uri ng pagbubuwis na binabayaran sa gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng BIR. The national taxation system is based on the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 or the Republic Act Number 8424, also known as the Tax Reform Act of 1997. So, ang pambansang sistema ng pagbubuwis ay nakabatay sa National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 o ang Republic Act Number 8424 na kilala rin bilang Tax Reform Act of 1997.
Types of taxes. 1. Capital gain tax is a tax imposed on gains that may have been realized by the seller from the sale, exchange, and other disposition of capital assets located in the Philippines. Including this is the pacto de retro sales. When we say pacto de retro sales, it is the condition of repurchase or ito yung mga naibenta mo na tas binili mo ulit. The process of buying things back, and also other forms of conditional sales. Capital gains, ito yung increase in the capital assets value. For example, may nabili kang stock noong 2010 sa nagkakahalaga ng 10,000. Pagkatapos, ibinenta mo siya noong 2018 for the cost of 20,000. Ima-minus mo lang siya, 20,000 for the price noong 2018 at yung 10,000 minus 10,000 yung original price mo noong 2010 is equals to 10,000. Yun yung capital gain mo. And then, if you are single and your income is nasa bracket na ng 40,000 up till 441,450, ang babayaran mo lang ng tax is 15%. So, yun yung capital gains tax. And, meron din siyang tinatawag na two types of subjected to gains. Yung long-term and yung short-term tax. 2 is the documentary stamp tax. It is a tax on documents, instruments, loan agreements, and paper evidencing the acceptance, assignment, sale, or transfer of obligation, rights, or property incident thereto. Documentary stamp tax are evidence on documents like bank promissory notes, deed of sale, and deed of assignment and transfer of shares of corporate stock ownership. Ito yung may kinalaman sa legal rights, agreements, contracts, mga papeles. How How much is the documentary stamp tax here in the Philippines? Ito, for example, an original issue of shares of stocks is subjected to DST or documentary stamp taxes to the value of 2 pesos for every 200. Pero pag sa deed on sale o mga real properties, ito subjected tax nila is 15 pesos for every 1,000 pesos. And how to calculate this tax? To compute the DST, divide the higher amount between the selling price and the fair market value by 1,000 pesos pag sa properties. Then round off the amount the next higher number if there are decimals. Then multiply it by 15 pesos. So i-multiply mo siya sa 15 pesos. And the equal amount is yun yung babayaran. As a shortcut, multiply the higher amount between the selling price and the fair market value by. So yun yung pag-calculate ng documentary stamp. And who will pay the documentary stamp tax? The tax is paid by the person making or signing, issuing, accepting, or transferring the documents. However, whenever one party to the taxable document enjoys exemption from the tax, the other party thereto who is not exempt shall be the one directly liable for the tax. The third one is the donor's tax. This is a tax on donations or gift. It is also a tax imposed on the gratuitous transfer of properties between the two or more persons who are living at the same time of the transfer. It shall apply whether the transfer is in trust or otherwise, whether the gift is direct or indirect, and whether the property is real or personal, tangible or intangible. A donor's tax is based on a graduate schedule of tax rates. So, subjected to donor's tax. To be exempt from donor's tax, the donation must be given to the following non-profit institutions like educational, charitable, religious, cultural, social welfare, accredited non-government organization, philanthropic organization, and research institution. Hindi ka magbabayad ng tax kapag nag-donate ka or nag-gift ka sa ganitong mga organization. Pero pag sa mga profitable organizations ka nag-donor or nag-gift, magbabayad ka ng tax.
Estate tax is on the decrease a person to transmit his or her estate to her lawful heirs and beneficiaries at the time of death, and on the certain transfers which are made by the law as the equivalent to testamentary disposition. It is not a tax on property. It is a tax imposed on the privilege of transmitting property upon death, and the owner of the state's tax is also based a graduated schedule of a tax. Income tax. It is the annual profits made from property ownership, revision, trends of offices. It is also a tax. A person in income illuminates profits, and link in individual income tax is on base a graduate and schedule of tax rate, while component in income tax based on fixed rate and prescribed by the law or special law. Percentage tax. Percentage tax is a business tax imposed on person entities who sell or lease goods, properties, or service in the course of trade or business whose gross annual and seller of receipt do not exceed the amount of required to register as VAT registered taxpayers. Percentage taxes are usually based on the fixed rate.
Value-added tax is a form of sales tax. It is a tax on consumption levied on the sale, barter, exchange or lease of products or properties and services in the Philippines and on importation of goods into the Philippines. It is an indirect tax which may be shifted or passed on to the buyer, transferee or leasing of goods, properties or services. The late law on taxation is the Republic Act 9337, signed on May 24, 2005 by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, known as the Expanded Value-Added Tax. Value-added tax is a type of tax that is assessed incrementally. It is levied on each stage of production, distribution, and sale. Next is excise tax. It's a tax imposed on goods manufactured or produced in the Philippines for domestic sale or consumption or any other disposition. It is also imposed on things that are imported. A manufacturer should pay before or after the manufacturing process, and it is very common in the market. It is usually applied to the big industries such as tobacco, oil industry, and beverages. Withholding tax on compensation is the tax withheld from income payments to individuals arising from an employer to employee relationship. The process here is when an employer pays the employee, the tax is directly deducted and sent to the government. This is usually applied to government agencies and public services.
Expanded withholding tax. It is prescribed for only certain taxpayers like those withheld on rental income and professional income. It is creditable against the income tax due to the payee for the taxable quarter year. The final withholding tax. It is a kind of withholding tax which is prescribed on certain income payments, and it is not creditable against the income tax due of the payee on other income subject to regular rates or taxed for the taxable year. And the withholding tax on government money payments is the tax withheld by the national government agencies and instrumentalities, including government-owned and controlled corporations and local governments units or LGU, before making any payments to value-added tax registered taxpayers, suppliers, payees on account of their purchases of goods and services.
Types of local taxes. Tax on transfer of real property ownership. It is imposed on the sale, donation, barter, or on any other mode of transferring of real property. Dadto ni bayaran sa local treasurer's office, kani nga gina-impose ni siya sa mga methods like barter, sale, ug uban pa nga mga pamaagi sa pag-transfer of ownership or title sa mga real properties. Ang maximum rate na mabayaran ani niya is 50% sa 1% sa kantidad sa property, pero sa mga cities and municipalities within Manila 75% ang kwintada na nila. And number 2 is the tax on business and publication. It is imposed on printing and publication business like that of book, cards, posters, leaflets, handbills, certificates, receipts, pamphlets, and other of similar nature. Kanina tax is implemented sa mga businessman nga ang ilang business is related to printing and or publication of books, mga cards and mga posters, leaflets, handbills, certificates ug uban pa nga related sa printing nga negosyo. And the three is the franchise tax. Franchise tax is a tax on franchise business and the rate not exceeding 50% of 1% of the gross annual receipt of the preceding calendar year based on the incoming receipts, the annual earnings within the territorial jurisdiction where the franchise is selling in. Kanina tax gitawag sa ni siya nga privilege. Ginabayaran ni siya sa mga company na magtukod og business sa usa ka lugar. Mao ni siya ang maghatag og napagtugot na mag-operate siya sa iyang business sa usa ka lugar.
Tax on sand and gravel and other quarry resources is imposed on ordinary stones and gravel, earth, and other quarry resources. This refers to the raw materials na ginagamit natin para sa ating industriya na pang agrikulturang ekolohikal at iba pang mga kaugnayan na gawain na tumutulong sa paglago ng ating ekonomiya. As defined in National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 that was originate from Republic Act 8424 but now published and was called as Tax Reform Act of 1997. Kaya sa madaling salita, karamihan sa ating mga yaman na kailangan natin sa ating ekonomiya at gayon din para sa ating pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay ay natural na makukuha mula sa mga pampublikong lupain o katubigan. For example, if you are planning to have fish cage in the sea, in order for you to own some portion of it, you need to ask permits from the BIR and local government to operate because, as what I mentioned a while ago, sea bids are public. As expected, you need to pay the tax with that designated area in order for you to own it. The tax depends on how much area would you like to consume. Amusement taxes. A tax collected from the proprietors, lessees, or operator of theaters, cinemas, concert halls, circuses, boxing, stadia, and other places of amusement. What is amusement tax? Noun, a tax levied on such forms of entertainment as motion pictures, theater, etc., and included in the total admission price and a rate of not more than 5% of the actual gross receipts from the admission fees. Professional tax is an annual tax on each person engaged in the exercise or practice of his or profession that requires government examinations like licensure examination. Example, professional like a doctor, engineer, accountant, bookkeeper, lawyer, financial analyst, director, actress, actors, earning money from business other than as employee will pay an outright tax of 8% based on withholding tax, which even lower. The table. An outright tax of 8% can also be used by sole proprietor and by the professional or general partnership as long as their net sales will not exceed 3 million.
So, good day, I'm Judeline A. Villamino, and I'm going to discuss about the fishery rentals, fees and charges, and community tax, and lastly, taxes levied by the barangays and stores and retailers with fixed business establishments. So, fishery rentals, fees and charges are imposed by the municipality. Municipal waters are open to people inside the community as long as they abide the rules such as no using of explosives that can harm the fishes in the water and no using of small nets to prevent catching small fishes. And second, community tax, or commonly known as sidula, is the tax that is being paid by the people who are in legal age and people who have establishments and business in the community. And lastly, the taxes levied by the barangays and stores or retailers with fixed business establishments with gross sales of receipts for the preceding calendar year amounting of 50,000 pesos or less for city barangays and 30,000 pesos or less for municipal barangays at a rate not exceeding 1% in such gross sales or receipts.
Local taxes is based on the local government taxation in the Philippines as stated in the Republic Act 7160 or the Local Government Code of 1991 as amended. So, local taxes, ito daw ay ang uri ng pagbubuhis na nakabatay sa lokal na pamahalaan kung saan ito ay nakasaad sa Republic Act 7160 o ang Local Government Code of 1991. Service fees or charges are fees or charges collected by the barangays for services rendered in connection with the regulation of the use of barangay-owned properties or services or service facilities such as palay, copra, or tobacco dryers. So, ito daw ang buwis na kinukolekta ng barangay para sa serbisyong ibinibigay ng mga bagay-bagay na pagmamayari ng barangay o mga pasilidad ng serbisyo. Now, number 14, barangay clearance is a fee collected by barangays upon issuance of barangay clearance, a document required for many government transactions such as when getting a business permit from a city or municipal government or applying for a job in government office or a private company. So, ito raw ang buwis na kinukolekta ng mga barangay kapag ikaw ay kukuha ng barangay clearance, isang dokumento o papeles na kinakailangan sa iba't ibang uri ng transaksyong panggobyerno.